All right, David Cass here in California. How you doing, man? KeyRock CISO out with me in the dope mobile.
I'm happy to be here. Yeah.
You're like happy to be here. What's happening actually? There's lights here. You're wearing the dope jacket. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I think like the look of shock on your face, like, hey, what did I agree to? Like, please get me out of here.
It's quite the setup.
Dude, how you doing, man? Like,
good. No, it's been a good show so far. So.
Dude, it was so great meeting you the other day at the CISOs Connect thing, man. Dude, when did you get involved with that?
So I've been involved with CISOs Connect pretty much since they've started. I've been serving as their president for a little over 5 years now.
Okay, and so how does that work? Like, how do you? I mean, when you're their president and so on.
So I help make sure that we're building a truly strong community, one that's really focused on the CISOs and CISO needs. How do we take into consideration all the innovation that's coming from startups to get people exposure to what they need, but also the level of requirements has changed for CISOs over the years.
Well, how has it changed? How has it changed?
So I think you've gone from where you could be a purely technical player to now you really have to be business focused. You have to help enable the business. You have to be able to hold your own in meetings with the CEO, the CFO, with board members. So that really changes the dynamic on how you have to be able to communicate and what kind of messaging you deliver. So one of our big focuses is Connect is we're really focused on the CISO development of not only do we build a really strong tight-knit community, but how do we upskill each other?
Yeah, so like, but what would you say is like a skill that people particularly can learn from you guys? Because, dude, let's be real. Everyone says there's a CISO community. Right? Everyone says that's such a common thing. So I just want to kind of understand from your perspective, like, what would you say is something unique that is a skill that they can learn from their peers or whatever you kind of bring to the table?
I'd say we focus on everything from board specific communications to where we give you that high level communication training. We focus on actual, crisis response, crisis communication. So actually how to work with these people. How do you work with, your chief general counsel? How do you work with, some of the outside, Department of Justice teams that are involved in like
so like you introduce FBI and everything.
Exactly. So it's really how do you broaden the community, but also how do you understand what their expectations are if somebody's looking at it from the point of view of a regulator or the SEC or the FBI versus what's the business view and how do you kind of manage?
Makes sense. But do you think like I mean, obviously that's your side hustle.
Yeah.
So then what about your main job? Like, how has this impacted you and how have you kind of...
So I think, over the years, the community has been super important. That's one of the reasons I agreed to serve as president is, a lot of times we help bring each other up.
Yeah.
Because before there were these formalized communities and things like that, there was always kind of like the phone a friend network. That hopefully you have somebody in your network that's kind of lived or had or an experience that you can kind of reach out and ping. And so that's kind of how, this all got together by, we're building off of that phone or friend network and looking at, how do we really
actually impact each other.
Exactly. And that's made things with my day job immensely better because, now, I have much better familiarity. I've served on public boards and private boards before. So now I have the familiarity, the cadence with what's expected from a business point of view. And I feel like that now part of my obligation is, not only helping contribute to the community, but how do we bring up the next generation of CISOs?
It's important. It's an important question though, right? Because and dude, so tell me, like, what does your company do? I mean, so I kind of know, but I just can't.
So KeyRock, we're a crypto financial services company.
Okay.
So we've been growing. So we've gone from being purely a market maker to really looking at how do we become a true neo investment bank for digital assets. So we're growing in that space and we're growing rapidly. And, the challenge there is, one of the reasons why I look for the innovative technology is since we're in the Web3 space, things move very fast.
And like, dude, is Web3 like a fad, not a fad? I mean, I know it's kind of a complicated question.
So I guess it depends on how you look at it. But from a digital asset perspective, I'd say, those things are here to stay.
Like you mean the cryptocurrencies and such?
Well, not only cryptocurrencies, but now we're looking at like, tokenization of physical assets. And physical security. So even when I was at the Federal Reserve as a regulator, we kind of looked at it from the point of view that, digital assets are here to stay.
The NFTs are not here to stay.
Yeah. There's different potential in that space where, NFTs you kind of treat like, your baseball cards or your artwork. There's
Yes, except they're baseball cards that you can copy paste.
Yeah, so you have to look at it from the perspective of, that's something that, okay, if you really, really like it, buy it, but, buying it from speculation, we've seen what's happened in that marketplace.
Exactly. So being in the, I mean, incidentally, we have a lot of crypto customers like BitMEX and so on
Yeah.
and so forth. But I've always been so curious about these cyber focused SMBs. And what I mean by that is that you all probably have like 200-300 people, right?
Yep.
But you manage tons of assets
Yeah.
and tons of workflows. So the state-sponsored attacks that you get into your space, like how do you like grok that? How do you kind of think about that?
So unfortunately, the key thing is, to build a really strong team,
Right,
number
right.
one.
But you must have seen things that no
So-
one here has realized that like how you've been implementing. I'm sure you've seen.
Oh yeah, so I mean, within crypto, yeah, and you get all kinds of impersonation attack. You name the you name the attack vector, it's there.
Like it's not
And
like I mean, because let's put in the real terms. Because sometimes I think we think it's like, oh, BEC, it's like a category, it's a thing. But like what exactly have you seen? If you don't mind sharing.
Yeah. So I mean, things that I could talk about in general that we see is, people either impersonating employees, impersonating officers on a regular basis.
Is this just email or is this other?
No, either through email, through Telegram, through Slack, and through any kind of communications method possible.
How do they do
try.
it? Like through Slack, for example?
Well, I mean, not so much through Slack, but when you look at like Telegram, you look at
Yeah.
other main communication channels.
like a message.
Exactly, where where you can get on and easily impersonate somebody's handle. A lot of that goes on, and there's, we're fortunate from the security perspective, but there's other ways that they try to get in. It's if they can't actually get into your systems,
Yeah.
then they'll try posing as,
Such
maybe
and such
your
person.
traders or posing as your clients and try to get you to take a certain position where they take the other side of it. And then, they can potentially make money.
So how does that
something like
work? So they basically would make you or convince you to do one thing, they do the other?
Well, exactly. So you'll have people that can try to impersonate the traders and either reach out to our customers with recommendations, or you'll have people that impersonate customers that will reach back or try to reach back to find out who the traders are and get them. So if they can't actually physically get your money, they'll still try to, there's other areas that they'll try and make money on. So yeah, it's a very interesting and dynamic space.
I think like it's really interesting to me because like obviously we do have customers in this area, but like it's kind of good to humanize or make it more practical and pragmatic, right? So I mean that's what I'm trying to, I guess, ask you in a different way is like, so there's these impersonation attacks which are very complicated. What other kinds of attacks have you seen that are just truly different or unique to your space, let's say?
Well, you see a lot in DeFi with the smart contracts where there's lots of contracts on there that either there's flaws in business logic, flaws in security logic, or you have to use a bridge to get to another area, so where you have to bridge contracts. So there's lots of areas for potential loss.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is, since blockchain and smart contracts, not all smart contracts have updatable code. So if you put a contract out there with bad code that's immutable, that thing is going to live out there. And unfortunately, you may have innocent victims. Other people may be aware that there's vulnerabilities, but people could still fall prey to that. Or you may have smart contracts that get upgraded, and during that upgrade, they can have flaws that could lead to potential loss. So there's lots of avenues for for potential fraud.
So when you joined this company, how many years ago?
So I'm actually only 6 months into this company now.
Where were you before that?
So before that, I was GSR, another crypto market maker.
You love crypto, dude.
It's a fascinating space. So it's kind of like,
what makes
take
you
financial.
love it, though?
I'd say the speed. So it's kind of like take financial services and put that on a bunch of Red Bull.
Yeah.
And then you have, crypto from that point of view where everything moves much faster.
Yeah.
It's a constantly evolving environment. So it's one of those things that if you're in InfoSec where, you're always learning.
You're learning
and this is one of
something,
those environments where you have to always be learning.
Yeah. Do you think that like in this environment you're always going to be you think you're always going to be in this space?
I mean, I've been fortunate that I spent most of my career in financial services, or large tech, and I think now what we're seeing is, digital assets represent like a blending of everything.
Right. And so when you go in and do that, I guess it is exciting because you get a chance to work on something new and so on and so forth. That's right?
Yep.
Nice. So then like what do? You come in, you're day one, you get in, what is like there must be some sort of I also, you see, I don't want you to give away your secret sauce, but in a way, like what would you say is like the the numbers 1 to 5 things that you do when you're in crypto, joining a new company as a CISO? Like what are the things you do?
Yeah. So first of it is that I think the construct of the first 90 days has kind of gone out the window. I think they really expect you to learn the environment much faster.
Mm-hmm.
So part of it is, not only like assessing the environment, demonstrating that, and part of it is knowing the other business leaders that you need to know and meet and work with, not just necessarily from like a management hierarchy point of view,
Yeah.
but knowing who the other groups are, where you may need to go to learn,
Like,
about
what?
the organization.
Forgive me for my stupidity, but like, what would be those other groups? Is it like product, engineering, like those kind of things?
So for me, we have to work with everybody from product to trading operations to
Trading, yeah.
trading to our strategy group who may be looking at buying and acquisitions. So we
Uh-huh.
really, I mean, that's the nice thing about the digital. We work with everyone.
Yeah.
And everyone has a different perspective. So I have to look at, what's our baseline security that we need across the organization, and like what's the nuances from like, what's asset wealth management need versus trading, and how do we maintain the segregation that we have to between those units and things like that as well.
So step one, you got to talk to everyone.
Pretty much, yeah.
What's step two?
So step two is, and after talking to everyone, getting a good understanding of the business, is assessing what's currently there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and looking at, okay, what's currently there, where are we strong as far as getting back to, do we have good fundamentals in place, and
Yeah.
and if we have gaps, where do we need to build on those fundamentals? Because there's a lot of great and interesting tech out there, but the problem is if you don't have a good foundation, it doesn't really matter what you're bringing in, because you're going to bring it in on top of a weak foundation.
foundation,
Have a
yeah.
problem.
And so, like, do you typically find that these organizations are like, I mean, because they're pretty technical, right?
Yep.
So that they must have some knowledge and some bare basics in place.
Yeah, so I think fortunately for, most, crypto, whether you're a market maker, exchange, or anything like that, that you're pretty security forward, only from the point of view because usually any security weaknesses have direct financial consequences.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not less
Yeah,
did we
you
use
lose
data
money
and it's
literally,
all of a
yeah.
sudden money is gone,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you have
yeah.
a problem. So I'd say from that point of view that, the other part I find fascinating is the crypto and digital asset environment is really truly, where zero trust used to be the buzzword.
Yeah.
Crypto is really a zero trust environment, because you have to kind of engineer that, you're preventing insider activity, preventing outsider bad
Outside,
activity.
yeah.
So it's really a whole zero trust kind of operation of how do you design to be
Would you
zero trust
consider yourself
inside and out.
very like, I mean, heavily attacked and really, really? Again, I have heard this
Yeah.
before, but would you consider yourself extremely heavily under attack?
I'd say all, if you're in the digital asset
Space,
space,
you
no
are
matter what, you're constantly
under
under surveillance from somebody that wants to make
at
money.
some level.
Yeah.
Yeah, because obviously you guys have the money. Would you say that's different or similar to like being the CISO of, like, for example, a bank?
I'd say it's different from the aspect of, it's probably harder to try to rob a bank, because
Yeah.
to get the money out of the bank, to get in the systems. Banks have had essentially generations of hardening
Yeah.
and security systems, whereas crypto, part of it is when you're increasing the speed of cross-border transfers, you're making money flow more
Very quickly,
freely.
yeah.
That also creates a potential risk where you don't have a couple hours where you have the ability to recall a wire. These things are
Right, it's
final.
gone. It's done. It's done.
Yeah,
So give me
exactly.
the sense of the scale. Like, what's the scale of this stuff? Because I think sometimes people don't necessarily know that.
Well, when you look at the scale of the overall markets, I mean, crypto has grown where organizations are managing billions and billions
Like,
of
you guys, what about
assets.
you guys?
So we manage a large amount. We usually don't like to disclose it.
Yeah, but it's like a
private.
lot,
Yeah, but
like a few gazillions.
it's definitely a lot from the amount that we manage. And the key thing there is nobody wants to increase the target on their back, so we're
Yeah.
always looking at how do we constantly keep iterating and keep getting our security program better.
Mhm.
As well as how do we work with our peers in the crypto space as far as sharing intelligence and things like that. Because if one of us is under attack, it's not long before the other
Other
one
ones,
to be on.
yeah. So do you work closely with other people in your industry?
Yeah, we look at how do we share intelligence, just like, kind of going back to that, that CISO network. We look at peers that are in, either other crypto or
Crypto,
financial
yeah.
services or things like that, where, hey, here's what we're seeing. What are you seeing?
Mhm.
And kind of share thoughts and notes.
Around that.
Yeah.
Nice. So when do you think you're gonna, like? I mean, there is a very specific part of it. What is, like, something that makes you good at what you do?
I think it's the constant hunger for learning.
Yeah, you like that.
Because it changes so much. Just when you look at just the pure evolution of cloud, blockchain. Now we have like
Right.
generative AI. You have so much coming, that will add value ultimately to the business. But part of that is, as long as it's used in a proper
I
manner.
mean, you're definitely, I definitely see this like when you get into a few different, there's a specialization
Yeah.
of CISO. You're a specialized CISO specifically in crypto and such, right?
Well, I've been in other industries. I've been in
Yeah.
big tech. I've been in, like health and things like that. I've spent most of my career in financial services. I mean, but I tend to like it. I like the
Yeah.
pace. I think you choose certain industries because, pace,
Phase
challenge.
challenge and so
Yeah.
on. What do you think if well, a lot of people that do watch this video, they always think about what can I do to be like you one day?
So I think it's, keep learning. I think it's
Yeah, but that's
definitely
the generic
possible.
thing.
Yeah,
That's a generic thing. You
but
can't say generic
yeah.
things.
So I think, it's, if you want to change industries, there's pathways to change
Well, no, a
industries.
lot of people are in cyber, right?
Yeah,
They're like they are the
yeah.
the cyber engineer. They're kind of just getting their foot in the door. So like, how can one go from that to being the CISO?
So I'd say, first thing is kind of like build your network.
Yeah, yeah,
So, odds are you'll find peers that are above you, your managers, senior managers, directors, and start, building that network to figure out, how do you gain from them, either from a mentorship or experience point of view, so you can start getting, more than the technical aspects. Because one of the
mhm,
things I love about cyber is it's such a broad field. There's
yeah.
just so many things people can do within there. So you have to kind of make the decision of, if
Going
you want to
towards
go into, like, what's the pathway for you? Because if you're, a highly trained AppSec person or a
yeah,
pen tester, you probably don't want to go into senior management where now all of a
yeah.
sudden,
Well,
you're
what do you
dealing with
think makes
different
people want to do
challenges.
that though?
So I think it's really that, where do they feel themselves growing? Because I think from a growth opportunity, you
Hmm.
can grow within pen testing, you can grow. But I think, if you want to get the bigger picture of the business, now, being a CISO within an organization really gives you,
Gives you that
the
knowledge.
good business fundamentals, because now you have to work with so many other teams where security used to be many years ago pretty insular. Now, if you're going into, management, you have to demonstrate that you understand how the rest of the org works. You have to build relationships with the rest of the org. You can't
Right.
operate in the silo.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think like when somebody watches this and looks at you, they're like, "Hey, I want to be like that guy one day," which is kind of interesting to think about, right? With if somebody goes in, they make the connections, they do this, they do that. Like, what would you say? And in a different way, what would you say is not good about being a CISO?
Uh, so I mean, there's lots of times where, things start as security's fault, for better or worse. So it used to be when I was coming up, the networking team would always blame security. Security would always blame somebody. So I think, part of it is learning how to, be part of the operation where you're adding value, but learning how to contribute that, and like really work across all the different business organizations to figure out, demonstrate
Yeah.
that you understand what's going on, and to show that how security can go from being like the utility where, nobody knows it's there till the lights go out, to being able to actually add value to the organization, whether
Well,
that's helping
what would
improve
you?
some of the business processes of, making it a better experience for your
But
customers, or
I don't hear something that you don't like about doing.
well, I mean, that's why I like it. I mean, I
Oh,
like the interactions. I like working with the, the senior management and the senior executive team and getting their experience. Now, granted, things get tense if there's issues or crises underway, and having to manage your way through that.
yeah.
So part of that is, why we also train, because again, when things are going sideways, you need to be the cool head in the storm and figure out, what are we focusing on?
Or how
How do
are
we
we?
figure out what's really going on?
Yeah, because I mean, if you're freaking out, then that may
Well,
not be a
yeah.
good look, right? So then from there, you're like, hey, that's one thing you sort of maybe people may not like, but you don't mind it.
Yeah, exactly. So part of it is you have to understand that, and you have to understand that, for better or worse, I mean, we're going to have sometimes competing objectives. So you have to be able to, how do you have awkward conversations with different groups and still come to a mutual agreement to figure out what's best for the
What's
business.
that's the bit? Yeah, yeah. I mean, do you think that you have? Well, this is a silly question, but what's like your pet peeve in cyber?
All right, pet peeve in cyber. That's hard. I'd say, when groups get too checklist oriented,
Oh yeah,
where things become like just a rote process, and they don't revisit it to see what's changed, or do we still need all of these
you
things?
refilling all these check boxes. Yeah,
Exactly. And are they
does that
actually
happen a
adding
lot in
value?
cyber?
I mean, I would say so, that it tends to, that, programs stagnate sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, one of the things is you can't let it stagnate. part of adding value is going back and looking through it. And, it's one of the nice things about working with so many innovative companies
Yeah.
is technology dramatically changes. I mean, things improve in latency, improve in security, improve. But if you're not reevaluating your program, it's kind of like having tons of old firewall rules that are sitting there.
They've never been
Yeah,
sort of optimized, let's say, or
exactly.
enhanced.
Exactly, or they've never been rationalized. So all of a sudden you're carrying excess costs, or you're, have processes into place that are not adding to security, maybe just adding to overhead. So part of that is, looking at how you continuously, reevaluate your program based on what's changed in the environment and how's the organization changing.
Yeah. Do you think that that's good internal? I like the
Yeah.
internal one. It's like, hey, I don't like when there's like particular specific checkboxes and people don't enhance them. What about externally in cyber? Because there's a big, I mean, dude, we're at RSA conference. This is
Yeah.
insane here, dude. You can't go 5 seconds without seeing the RSA somewhere.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess the external challenge is there's so many vendors out there.
Uh-huh.
So part of it is, understanding, where do you, is the kind of the role of the right vendors come into your
Yeah.
program? How do they truly help and how do you assist? Because from my point of view, I want vendors that are going to be partners on there.
Right.
I don't want to get sold something, have somebody disappear.
Does that happen?
I mean, some of the tools, some organizations kind of treat it as like to set it and forget it. And fortunately, now that, we're 100% cloud and SaaS,
Yeah.
that's
It's more
changed my
difficult.
planning arc.
Yeah.
Because this way, now I can plan as little as like a 1 year horizon, because I don't have the integration headache that I've had
In the
before
past
when
when
you're
you're
running your
deploying
own.
and-
Exactly. So I think it lets me avail myself of new and better technology, which is hopefully forcing, vendor relationships to be
Yeah.
better, and how we work together to be better. Because at the end of the day, I not only do I want good tech, but I want to be able to work with vendors that I trust. People are delivering on their roadmap. People
Well, what's
that
the
are,
worst vendor experience you've had? You don't have to name and
I'd
shame
say
yet,
without
but
the worst one is, I'd say most of us are happy to work with startups, but I think when there's a lack of transparency
yeah.
and a lack of communication, whereas, the marketing painted a very different point of view
Meaning like you
that
buy, yeah, it's kind of
that
like,
what it's going to deliver, or you're not consistently not meeting your roadmaps. Is I'd say most CISOs, there's some very good innovative technology out that's fairly new, and most CISOs are willing to avail themselves of it. But part of that analysis for me is, how much do I trust the people that I'm dealing with? That if
yeah,
stuff goes sideways, we're going to work together to figure
to
out
figure
what
out what's
happened.
going on, or at least
Yeah,
if there's an enhancement or a
exactly.
thought yeah. I think like trust is so
Yeah,
important. I mean, obviously, when we say, everybody would just say, "Oh, you're a customer. You're not a customer. You're a partner." You
yeah,
know what I mean? For me, like ultimately, yes, our customers are our customers, and I always appreciate them. But I think like making sure that you are insanely easy to get in touch
yeah,
with, because it's. I mean, the reality is that they're gonna know the person that sold the technology to them. A,
yep,
and B, they're gonna know maybe the product team, basically.
yeah. Well, exactly. And I think trust and transparency are important, but that's the challenge with that is that's something that you have to kind of continuously deliver on after the sale.
Yeah, you can't just like,
Yeah,
run away. It's interesting, like I worked in a lot of products. I worked in a lot of products, and every product manager had such a big impact on exactly what you're talking
yeah,
about. Because the thing is that the salespeople, they typically don't disappear because they want to retain the
yeah,
relationship. They want to go in. The problem is always like, hey, on the product side, who do I talk? How do I get this
yeah.
done? Whatever. And that's usually where this kind of falters.
Yeah, and I think that's also one of the reasons why we have a big willingness to work with some more of the startups and things like that. Is there's nothing against the super large tech companies that are out there, but the problem is, having worked for one of the biggest tech companies as well in the past, it's how do you kind of maintain your ability to innovate when you're, that many thousands
Yeah.
of people big.
That's
Yeah,
a good question too, right?
so
Yeah, man. Well, look, for what it's worth, I think like all these things that you brought to the table, they are important for people to hear. So I wanted to ask you, because you do CISOs Connect, which essentially does a ton of uh I mean, you help the CISOs and so on. What would you say is like a big takeaway that you think like one thing that every CISO should know?
that definitely that you're not in it alone.
Yeah.
That there, it is a real community. And that's just like the security world is, as many people are here, it's a smaller world than people think it is.
Hmm.
So it's, your reputation is important, how you work with other people is important, but in general, most of us are there for each other.
Yeah. And so like those communities, you should join one, right?
Yeah, exactly. It does, it can only help.
Yeah. Well, how should someone join your community?
And so we're always happy to have people reach out. And we've kind of expanded where our primary audience has been, CISOs. Now we've also been looking at like, how do we upskill the
The
deputies?
deputy was
Because, you want a good succession plan. You want, to be able to make sure that, if you do leave your organization to go elsewhere, that hopefully you have a succession pathway for somebody
right.
there. So we've been working to develop that space as well as help with the upskilling of, how do we bridge the gap between our deputies and us as well.
And then I think like my last question for you always, obviously you look dope in the dope jacket. But like what do you think is like one thing that you would recommend to every single cybersecurity company out there, the ones that build the tools and technologies and so on?
So I think, really understanding the way the world works now, because we
Yeah.
talked about some of the, the older products and things like that were designed where you're gating through
Uh-huh.
data centers, or you're gating through POPs, or you're gating through,
Yeah.
and,
You get a
right
big
now,
plug for me,
yeah.
buddy.
So right now, the world works from everywhere. We
Yeah.
work from everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
And having the ability to do that and enable that in an area that doesn't increase overhead and latency is very important.
Yeah, I mean, it's all.
So,
I do think there's like a pragmatic approach that needs to be brought into cyber.
yeah.
Remember, like these companies out there, and I mean, we're currently not like that, but one day, yeah, you're gonna be 70% sales and marketing.
Yeah, and just the fact that we literally work from everywhere. So if I have to gate things, I want the level of security, but I don't want to slow things down.
Yeah.
And I think that's the nice thing to see is like, how is the technology evolving? Because, what's possible now wasn't a thought like 5 years ago.
5 was it? Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons that I also find this space fascinating. And it's kind of like, how do you help organizations continue to evolve? And just, again, being kind of a work from everywhere. We have people all over the
Yeah.
world, and we have small presences in certain countries and things like that. It doesn't make sense for me to gate certain things.
About very fair, very fair. Well, listen, man, this has been absolutely incredible, man. I love it. Thank you so much
Oh,
for
thanks for
coming
the
in.
invite. I
It's been
appreciate
sheer
it.
fun.
So,
Looking forward to seeing you in a lot of different cities.
yep.
How should people get in touch with you?
So LinkedIn is usually the best way,
You never
unfortunately,
respond
for
on LinkedIn.
messaging.
I've been getting this guy for 10
I
times.
try. So I mean, and you have my cell number, so that's the easiest way. So
No, I had to get that. I found it online.
So text is definitely probably the fastest
Yeah.
way, but I'd say, generally community-wise, like LinkedIn and things like that is a good place to start. So.
Awesome, man. Well, dude, thank you so much.
Oh, no, I
Looking forward to
appreciate
see
it,
you
man.
super soon.